Welcome to the latest episode of 5 on the Floor and 5 Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app, on Apple Podcasts, on Android, Spotify, which actually we recommend for both platforms, or the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. If you go to 5 Reasons YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, and check out the other non-Heat content on the network. Also, check out Off the Floor. That's our Discord server, $2.99 per month. Link right there in the description, the place for the most Heat. We have a draft channel. We got a transaction channel. Oops, we're going to get you through the offseason as I drop my mic. Check it out. It's Off the Floor. Use the link in the description. Don't edit that out, Alex. That's apropos of this podcast. Subscribe to Off the Floor. Also, subscribe to Prize Picks. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E. Put down your $5. You get $50 to play right away. Believe it or not, I used to speak for 3 hours a day on the radio every single day. Prize Picks. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E. Get your $50 to play right away. The official fantasy sponsor of the 5 Reasons Sports Network and legal in the state of Florida. And now, today's episode.
Mercy, luxurious, Heat Nation, yeah, Mercy and Lago, down to Biscayne, yay, 5 on the floor, ride for my dogs, where here's the thing, you can check the score, hustle hard, couple scars, wearing bubble frogs, down to Biscayne. Kept the flow playing, got it all band. Y'all seen the block, stop with one hand. And Pat we trust, it's power, have the guts. We're here to bring the heat, y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Also, make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
All right, welcome back to 5 on the Floor. That was an open. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick at 5 Reasons Sports. I got Alex Toledo. You can follow him at Tropical Blanket. That may come in handy pretty soon. Some big news. Maybe we'll see. Today's floor plan, Giannis. Why not? We have T-shirts. Giannis, bam, 21. We're just changing the 1 to a 5. That's all. It's like I have a tattoo I don't like, and I've been trying to get rid of it, and it's just easier to kind of paint over it. So that's what we're going to do. It's easier and a lot cheaper. So we're going to go with a 5 over the 1, just ignore the 5. Okay, let's just start here, and then we'll get into the specifics of what this would take. Alex Toledo, a huge Miami Heat fan. You had to suffer through these home games this year, suffered through the two losses, total of 92 points the last 2 games. Do you have any faith that Giannis Antetokounmpo is ever going to be a member of the Miami Heat?
I don't know about faith. I don't think I have faith in it. I think it's an absolute pipe dream. So I guess there's a chance. But yeah, I absolutely would not expect anything like that. But hey, man, like Giannis talked about wanting to win, talked about wanting, the big European stars to play in the big markets. They shares an agent with Bam. So like those are things that you can hold on to if you're a Heat fan. But of course, like my expectations are so low, but there's no faith involved.
Okay, so let me go through these points here because some of this is coming out through ESPN and other sources. The churn. We're used to this. Players start to get unhappy about his current location. He's going to have a meeting with the Bucks to discuss their future. We know what that means. I mean, they can't do a lot. Like I mean, look, and I know Heat fans are feeling karmic in some ways about this because Milwaukee got into kind of grown man's business on the Dame stuff. But the Dame thing ultimately didn't work out. Not because of Dame, but because they didn't go very far. He got hurt last year. Giannis was hurt last year. Dame now, has a serious injury that's likely going to cost them all the next season. So it didn't work out for them. And they don't have a lot of assets to move. They don't have good young players. They don't. Like this has been one of the issues they've had since that trade. And even at the time, I mentioned this, the Heat were more concerned about Drew Holiday going to Boston than Dame going to Milwaukee. That ultimately got proven right. So they don't have a lot that they can do around him. So I don't think that the end of that meeting is going to be Giannis saying, I could be wrong, but I don't think it's going to be, come on, let's all run it back. I'm going to stay here for the next 5 years. Milwaukee is my forever home. I don't see that at this point. He's a different person, different player than when he came into the league. And I talked to him, by the way, when he was a rookie. I worked on a piece for Bleacher Report about about foreign players, young foreign players adjusting to life in America. And honestly, I mean, he was so vulnerable at that time. He cried during that interview. So I mean, he's a totally different person than he was. And I always appreciate the time. He won't remember me, but the time he gave me way back when. So with all that said, I don't think he's ultimately going to want to stay there. And yes, it does open Miami as a possibility. But the very first thing that you said is problematic. He wants to win. Now, this organization has a track record of winning, but it does not seem positioned to win big. The other problem here is you mentioned he shares an agent with Bam. We used that 4 years ago. As our reason why this may happen. Wouldn't he need to be traded for Bam? Most likely.
Well, no
I
doubt.
throw
That's
those two
what
things
they
out.
would ask for.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. And another thing, it's like, you know, to go with that point is that the Bucks do not control their picks going forward. Like the Pelicans have some of those. Just in general, I was looking at their pick situation. They do not own their own first round pick until 2031. There's like a lot of swaps involved, a lot of like the Bucks receiving the least favorable of this and that. You know what I mean? Like they're going to have picks, but not their own. So like if and when they move on from Giannis, they can't just go into a natural tank because they don't own their picks. So it's a little bit of a complicated situation as far as trying to speculate on what the Bucks will want, because that's not a team that can just attract guys, right? Like maybe they do want a Bam in return. That's probably the first thing they're asking for, on top of a bevy of first round picks, all the picks and swaps that the Bucks could ask for and that the Heat are allowed to trade, right? I think that would be their starting point, if there even is a starting point, right? If they get to that,
and the Heat
point,
would have to get some of those from other places, most likely, right? Which means
the Heat would probably try to work with the Pelicans to get the Bucks some of their picks back. I would imagine in a 3-team deal.
Okay, and what on the Heat roster in your mind is worth a first round pick right now?
Well, definitely Hero, definitely Bam are worth at more than one.
By the way, it's nice to see you say that about Tyler, because there were Heat fans who weren't saying that a year ago. But okay, yeah, I agree with you. He's worth.
I thought he was worth a pick when we were talking about Dame. When we were talking about like the Heat maybe moving him for a pick or two at that time. I thought that was about his value, and he's obviously grown since then. So I think you could say easily 2 picks, but obviously like that's such a variable market, because like Mikal Bridges goes for 5 picks last year in that entire haul, right? So like it's not something that you can always predict. But just in general, like outside of those guys, it starts to get a little.
Would you get a first round pick for Khalil Ware now? Remember, players drive off the lot. It's like no, it's like a car dealership. Car drives off the lot. It's not worth the same. But you've seen him.
Well, I think Ware's
better than the 15th pick. Okay.
Yes, I think he was a much better player. Like as far as just like the way that the rookie season played out, I think he gave you more than like where he was drafted at, even though he came on so late. Where it's just like he became a full-time starter, and even though like for as much as I pick at him, he was clearly like one of the better rookies this year after he came into the rotation. So I mean, obviously, I'm not saying you can get any first round pick you want, but I think you could at worst get a late first for Khalil Ware. Absolute worst.
Anything else? Because I don't see it.
I thought at some point maybe Wiggins, but it's just the way that things went in the playoffs. It's hard. Man, it's hard to get that recency, out of your brain when you're evaluating him, because it's like if he would have played anywhere near what he was during the regular season, maybe it's not as bad. Not that he was amazing, but he was a good player. Like he was a solid two-way player for them in the regular season, showing them, different things on offense. Maybe the defense wasn't as good as you wanted it to be, but he was a solid two-way player. He was nowhere near that in the playoffs. He was an absolute negative and was ineffective at his game. Really couldn't get to his game a lot of the times. And like I felt like when you look at him in a vacuum, I feel like he's worth a first, but it's hard to say that now because of the way that things left off.
Okay, couldn't get a first for Jovic, couldn't get a first for Hawkins at this point. Davion Mitchell's a restricted free agent. So I think it's Hero, Bam, and Ware. All right. So I don't think this is real possible either. I think, again, this is a situation where there are some things that are Heat fans who are saying, well, look, if they had been collecting assets all along, they probably still wouldn't be able to match what some of these other teams have or get even close to it. So on the other side of this, I want to go to Alex. We'll go through, since we targeted Jimmy to Golden State very early, we'll go through some of these teams and where Giannis may actually end up. But it's going to be good conversation for a little bit. Look, until he says the words, I want to go to Miami and just Miami. That's it. Ceviche 305 or whatever. I want to be there. We're going to do a parade outside until he says Miami and only Miami, and even then the Dame stuff. I know that led people down. All right, on the other side of this, we will talk.
Free promo is crazy.
these teams. I know. Well, if they want to join us as a sponsor, we'll take it because I'll definitely eat there for free before I can't go to Los Ranchos anymore. They replaced it with Bacon Bitch, and I don't even know if that's still
that's places out for free.
That's like the worst trade in NBA history. Anyway, I want to tell you about a great sponsor here. Our friends over at c-armandstaffing.com.
And now it's time for the X-Ray of the Play of the Day, brought to us by our friends over at Mobile C-Arm and Staffing Services. Nelson and his team will bring the X-ray equipment and the staffing to you. If you work in a hospital or a medical office, get a consultation today at c-armandstaffing.com or give them a call at 561-891-9620. Their fleet of trucks at your service. Again, it's Mobile C-Arm and Staffing Services, 561-891-9620. And now, the X-Ray of the Play of the Day.
All right, let's go through the X-ray of the options for Giannis. So he says, according to what's leaking out, we know that stuff starts to leak out. It's because the players looking to leave. No state tax, ready to win, or diminished state tax. Okay, so I did a handy search of these states with no state tax. We have to do it. We got to do a little bit of learning here, even if they don't want you to do that in the schools anymore. All right, the nine states with no state income tax. So let's go through these. Where is it? Okay, Alaska. You're not gonna play there, right? What else we got? Sorry, going through NerdWallet. Takes a little time to search. Alaska, Florida, Nevada. No team there yet, but that's being discussed. New Hampshire, no team. South Dakota, send Giannis to South Dakota, no team. Tennessee.
Don't the Heat have a team in South Dakota?
They do not. They do actually. Send them to Sioux Falls, and then we can send Major back to cover them. That would be a promotion instead of demotion. Tennessee, I guess the Grizz. Texas, we'll discuss those three. Washington, we know there will be a team there, just like in Nevada, but it hasn't come back yet. And Wyoming. So I guess of current NBA teams, the only ones that fit his description, at least for no state tax, are Memphis, Miami, San Antonio, Houston, and Dallas. So let's go through them. Memphis, no, right? I don't even need to bring Mike Wallace on for this one. It's a great basketball fit, right? It's a great basketball.
I'm not sure that he wants to go there, but why immediately no? I'm curious to hear.
Because nobody ever wants to go there. That's why.
No, I get that. Yes, true.
Great barbecue on Beal aside. Like I don't know, but I mean he was living in Milwaukee, which I actually think is a
damn good team though. Maybe not the best out of these like options, but
what would you send if you're Memphis? Are you sending Ja? Or are you keeping Ja? You send Ja, you might get a deal done. I don't know that the Bucks want to deal with Ja necessarily.
I don't know, man. For the Bucks, that might be the best you can do. If you can get Ja, like that might be the best player you can get.
What about Desmond Bane's contract?
That's fine, but it's like yeah.
What if Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr. turns down the extension, or you don't offer him max?
I think that makes sense too. I mean, look, there would be a little bit of some weird stuff there with Ja and Giannis. Is like they're both like kind of guys who are attackers first, so you'd have to craft like a the proper team around them. But for sure, that's something that like if I'm the Memphis Grizzlies, I would 100% go for as good as Jaren was. I would. This is an opportunity. It's just hard to pass up if you get a chance.
We've seen Jaren Jackson on the biggest stage. He hasn't always come up big against the Heat on a Tuesday night. Yes, but not on some of the biggest stages. All right. I don't think it's particularly likely just because I don't see him trading in the Milwaukee situation for the Memphis situation. But again, I don't want to disparage Memphis. I actually like the city, but it's not a place that NBA players typically want to go. So let's get to the three Texas teams. Dallas now has the number one pick in the draft for a supposedly generational player to replace the generational player that they handed over to the Lakers in, I guess, an NBA stick-up.
Gotta love the new NBA where three playoff teams are getting the top three picks.
Well, and Brady and I talked about that, but there's the other part of this that every time a franchise player has been traded to the Lakers, somehow, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, I'm not QAnon, okay? Somehow that team is rewarded, okay, with the number one pick of the draft the next year.
You should know something was up when the Cavs got 3 number one picks in 4 years. That was
and they bungled 2 of them, didn't? Well, no. Well, Wiggins they traded for Love, right? That was the reward they got for, I guess. Again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, not QAnon. That was the reward that they got for LeBron leaving, right? 14 was Wiggins traded for Love. So they basically got Kevin Love and a championship.
Like
Orlando used to get this all the time. Shaq left, and they got the number 1 pick.
Oh man, I mean, D Rose to Chicago when they had like less than a 2% chance. You have
and the Heat had the best odds, right? Well, that's why I said with Brady, the Heat weren't going to move up anyway, and there were a whole bunch of things that needed to happen. Like first, the Heat would have had to win a coin flip. They don't win coin flips. They would have had to have won a coin flip against the Chicago just to put themselves.
They couldn't even win the one that they were in.
It's just amazing. They don't win coin flips. He fans were freaked out about this. I'm like, do you know what team you root for? They never catch one of these breaks ever. I said this months ago.
They would be where the Bulls are right now. Like we'd be talking about the coin flip and how we would have had Cooper Flag, but instead they're 12th pick.
And a segment of Heat Twitter would be bitching that they refuse to pay for the right coin. All right, so I don't even know how I got into this side topic. Let's look at Dallas. Now, right now, they're adding. I think it's a terrible place.
I mean, the 2 topics are like they're connected. They're no doubt connected. No, it's like the same teams, and honestly, like it connects with KD too. Like these Texas teams have been rumored for KD. Obviously, the whole thing, but like there's a lot of similarities here and all these different things.
I know. Well, you haven't had a chance because we just recorded it and you haven't listened to it yet. But Brady and I did discuss this, the whole KD thing. So we'll get back into it. But Dallas, number 1 overall pick. They have Cooper Flag. They have Anthony Davis, Daniel Gafford, and Derek Lively up front, and Kyrie returning at some point from a serious injury. If you were them, would you trade Cooper Flag for Giannis? I mean, obviously, the salaries don't work, so other things would have to happen. But I'm saying, would you make that the framework? Because I don't. And then would you trust Giannis to play next to AD? Because the spacing on that would be pretty. I said in the last spot, the only time Anthony Davis has ever spaced properly was in the finals against Miami. Other than that, he's not a spacer. So, and Giannis certainly isn't going to become one later in his career. So I don't even know if it would work. But like,
it's interesting you say that because there's a lot of parallels there with Bam. We're in the sense of like how would that fit work, and does Bam become a full-time stretch big, which is kind of what's kind of been happening. What was happening towards the end there, especially in the series, in the Cavs series. So, but yeah, like I think it's something that theoretically makes some sense, right? Like the Cooper Flag is not somebody you trade. There's a couple exceptions, like Giannis would be one of them, like Jokic, those type of guys. But even then, I'm still saying no. Like you can't. That's the one thing you just can't do right now. If you're the Mavs, you can't trade Luka and then get gifted with this Cooper Flag miracle, which is what it is. You're talking about a 1.7% chance after a freaking coin flip. Like, come on, man. They got so
right. So it was really a 0.8. It's 0.0. What? Less than a 1% chance. Like a.
Well, you're dividing
like
it by
an
2.
eighth. Yes, exactly. Not well. Like an 1/8 of a percent chance if you round it up. Like not even an 1/8 of a chance. Forget it. An 1/8 of 1% chance.
Exactly. They got so lucky. Right? Yeah, I just think you're gifted this. You don't turn it into Giannis. And like you can still, the thing about it is for the Mavs fans that you're still going to be able to compete once Kyrie is back if he's okay, of course. Yeah. It's like Cooper Flag is not somebody that's going to be like, oh, he needs 5 years to be good.
No, he'll be a rookie year.
He's not going to be. He might not make the All-Star team year 1, but from everything that's been said about him, from him being the best college player as a freshman by far, according to college people, by everything that was said about him last summer, which is a year ago, you know what I mean? Like against NBA players, it just seems like they really got like the perfect way to balance things out. Where it's like they've got their Kyrie and AD window when he's back, if he's okay. And then they've got their Cooper Flag window, and both of those things can kind of work together theoretically.
After their general manager was completely incompetent, which is just remarkable, the failing up in this league. Okay, I don't think that's going to actually happen. I would look at flipping AD for him, but because then you reset your clock. You push your clock back 2 or 3 years with a guy who has had injuries, but has not been as injury prone. Typically, as AD. All right, the next one. Okay. Houston, and this affects the Heat because I think the Rockets are making a mistake if they don't make a win now move. I look at the West, and this plays into it. Again, another great player potentially going out west. All the great players go out west. The cycle has been the same for the last quarter century. I don't see how Houston's the number 2 seed again with the same core, with just internal improvement. Like, I think that series showed them they need a guy to get them over the top offensively at the very least. Their defense is there. I think KD is the more reasonable play for them. I think that's where they get in the Heat's way. But I could see, I mean, look, if you're going to ever go the all-in move there, it's Giannis, right? Like, they have a ton of pieces they could send Milwaukee to sort of softly rebuild there, right? Like, that's
they could head start their rebuild without getting their picks back.
Yes, right. So that's where I'm saying, like, I think Houston is a threat for both. I don't know. What would you headline a deal for Giannis as if you're Houston? What's the best player that you could send them and feel comfortable?
I'm going to hit you with the daily tough question. But it's definitely not a man. I think a man is too valuable to not that it's like 100% untouchable. I would consider it, but that would be like, I'm not trading a man. Even if, you trade for Giannis, that gets you into a win now window. Jalen Green is out the door, right? For like as good as he is and still has upside and all that. I think that's one of the easier ones that like, okay, and maybe you try to do like a package centered around Jalen Green, maybe some other contracts, to make it work financially. And then you've got like other young players that maybe haven't broken into the rotation yet, like Reed Shepherd, we got Cam Whitmore. So if you can throw like those, like, let's say those 3 young guys, and then like a bunch of other picks, like you got like a nice little head start there. Like you've got, Reed Shepherd was the number 3 pick last year. Jalen Green was not like, is already kind of, is still very young, but you know what I mean? Like it is years into his development, right? For as many flaws as he has, like that's not a bad package. And then like I was even thinking about like whether they would do Şengün, because I think that would be kind of an interesting in the way of like, I'd be interested to see how they figure out that fit. Yeah. But Şengün is like, again, like if you're going into the win now window, you probably want to keep him.
I wouldn't trade him. I think Green is out the door.
I think with all those young players and picks.
I think Reed Shepherd is the piece that they would have to part with that they probably don't want to. But I feel like that's something. I think Jabari Smith still has potential. I think Whitmore still has potential. They've got a lot of guys there. There's just no room. But I'm with you on Amen Thompson. I think, to me, Amen Thompson and Şengün are their, and I know some don't agree with me, they're kind of their potential to be special players. I know maybe some feel Şengün has hit some kind of a wall here, maybe not tough enough physically, defensively, and some other things. But I mean,
and they have a $40 million piece in Van Vliet if they want to.
Van Vliet, well, and they did that
like
smartly.
A bigger trade,
the way that they work things out with him, so that could be done also. All right, one more in Texas, San Antonio. This is the one I think everybody's afraid of, right? they have they just look. I understand they're a great organization. I get it. Much respect to Pop. Obviously, best of luck in his new role. But it is something, isn't it? Right? The way they got David Robinson, they got Duncan when Pop was in the front office. They played Dominique Wilkins on one Achilles for 65 games. He led them in minutes so that they could shut down and get Duncan. They did make the smart trade of George Hill for Kawhi, but it's a little ridiculous. All right, so number 2 overall pick. They have the rookie of the year in Stephon Castle. They've got some useful players on good contracts, right? Devin Vassell, and a couple of others, right? Who's the one they tried to point guard 2 years ago that didn't work out?
Sohan.
Yes, good player though. I think
They've got Keldon, who's also like a mid-level contract there. Like different contracts that they can combine.
Right. And again, they have the number 2 pick of the draft. They have Wemby. There's the winning factor. They added De'Aaron Fox. Like you could trade Castle and get away with it. Like, I mean, if I'm Milwaukee, that's what I'm asking for. I'm like, okay, give me the rookie of the year and let's just start over, right?
It's funny because yesterday what people immediately went to is Dylan Harper restarting the Bucks. I mean, starting the Bucks rebuild, because he is that guy where like obviously Cooper is the prize, but I really do think like from what I've seen and from what other like from actual people who watch college basketball and study it, like he seems like an awesome prospect. Because he seems like he's going to be a two-way star from what I've seen. He's a big point guard who plays both ends. He's a very good attacker.
So you wouldn't take Castle because of, again, the duplication.
I mean, I'd ask for both. I'd ask for Castle and Harper and picks. Like it's freaking Giannis, right? Like you'd be
right.
Like I don't think the Spurs would blame you for asking for both of those guys, and that would be like the prize right there. That's better than almost anything you can get for real, because you're not going to get a man most likely, right? So realistically, like if there is any way at all that if the Bucks could get both of those guys, like that is how you restart a build. Even if like Castle Harper, like they're both like not awesome shooters, I think you just do it. You just do it as like we got these two awesome guards, and we're gonna build around them, and they're both awesome defenders. I mean, Castle's better, but still, like Harper will be your main on-ball guy. Like it just makes so much sense. But likely I doubt honestly that they will get both of them and a whole ton of picks, which is what the Bucks are going to be asking for. But either way, like the Spurs can offer their rookie of the year if they want to. They probably don't want to. And Harper is like
they kept him out of the Fox deal, but this is not De'Aaron Fox. Like originally it was he was going to be traded for De'Aaron Fox.
Like it comes down to it. No doubt.
How do you think a Giannis Wemby front court would work?
It would absolutely destroy the league, especially when you talk about Fox at number 3. Like that would absolutely come on. Like that would wreck the league. That would wreck the league. There would still be plenty of good teams, you know, like all that parity stuff would still be in there, but it's going to be hard to bet against that team. Like if you're just talking about those 3 and then whatever else you put around them, it will kind of be like a Heat Big 3 situation in the sense of like, well, it's going to be like interesting to see what they put around those guys because I don't know what would be left, right? But man, if you're the Spurs, no doubt you jump at that chance.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I mean, let's take a look at the one other team here that I think could be a wild card, but there's a lot of state tax. Golden State, he loves Curry. He loves.
I mean, we haven't even talked about OKC either.
No, we haven't. The state tax there too. It's also, he loves. There's the most state tax in California and New York, right? He loves Steph. They've worked out in the past. There's other things along those lines. You have a really pricey contract that you just signed a guy to who is not a number 1 anymore. Said Jimmy to Milwaukee.
I mean, come on. If I'm the Warriors, there's just no doubt about it. Like, yeah, like shout out you, Jimmy, but the game is the game. Like, you know, and it just is what it is. Like, I don't think Jimmy would be able to blame them for doing something like that. You know what I mean? Like, business is business. Giannis with the Warriors, Giannis with Curry would go nuts. That would be insane, right? Like,
well, he'll get to play with Dame watching.
Exactly. That's what I said. He gets to team up with Dame after all, just not for a long time. And you know, he gets to play for the in that area where he went to school at Marquette. So there you go, great hometown story.
Do you think he'd be happy?
No. I think he would probably lose his joy again.
I think so too. I don't see that as particularly likely, but it's just something that got thrown out there. I follow a lot of Warriors fans.
I don't know how they'd be able to win any sort of bidding war, and that's going to be a bidding war for sure.
I agree with. Well, it should be. Luka should have been a bidding war too, but I assume John Horst is going to look. They just recommitted to John Horst with a long extension. I'm not exactly sure why, but they've given him. They're going to give him the power to make the trade he wants to make.
I mean, man, he's in a small market and pulled off. You know, that championship team, and then he pulled off the Dame thing, which everybody thought was a home run at the time. So it's like hard to. I mean, but now
everybody thought, but did it work out for them, right? Like, I mean, that's again, you didn't know he was going to blow out his Achilles, but the loss of Jrue Holiday hurt them, I think, more than they anticipated, even if others saw that coming. Mm-hmm. One more team here, you mentioned it, OKC. So let's discuss that one quickly. If they want someone and the player wants to go there, there is nothing anybody else can do to stop it. I don't think. They can literally send you picks for the next 10.
And it's not even like they can send you a whole haul of picks that are not theirs, so you don't have to worry about like, we're getting the Thunder's like terrible picks. They can give you a bunch of other teams' picks, and they can give you good young players. Not like they don't have like blue chip guys to offer because they're not going to offer.
I take Aaron Wiggins. I like him. I like a lot of them.
They have a bunch of like contracts to make it work too. Because first of all, Hardenstein makes $30 million on his own. So after that, you only need to make up $20 million, and then they have like a bunch of other contracts in the teams, like Lou Dort, like Wiggins, like Caruso. You know what I mean? Like they can easily theoretically get Giannis with matching contracts and a ginormous haul of picks that aren't theirs. So if you're adding Giannis to Shea, Chet, and Jalen Williams, like what are we talking? Those are the two wreck the league scenarios. Even for as good as Curry is, that might be number 3. I think like Spurs, Thunder, like. You know, that they become the overwhelming favorites, I think, if he ends up on there. And the Warriors probably too. But like him joining those other 3 guys in the Thunder, I think they might win 80 games if they really try.
Well, there's a lot of noise now. Our guy Howard Beck is now at the Ringer. He's probably going to join this week to talk about some of what he heard, and he's heard a lot behind the scenes. It looks like this is moving in a direction of Giannis ultimately leaving. Not a stunner under the circumstances. As we talk about these other teams, I don't think the Heat have a particularly good shot.
Can I ask one more question to help this whole filtering process here, right? Because the other one, speaking of Howard Beck, by the way, because he said this last week on Zach Lowe's podcast that like it's like mostly the teams that he's heard when talking to other people are the big market teams, and none of the teams we talked about were mentioned except the Heat. Like that, he mentioned the Heat with other teams who don't have like the best packages, right? Like the Lakers, the Clippers, maybe the Knicks can get in there, right? And I think he threw in the Bulls too. But essentially, like the biggest markets, the Heat are not in on that category of in that category of media markets, but he did name the Heat. So it's like I'd be interested to hear more from Howard from like the big market perspective, because like I said at the top of the pod, like that's something that literally came out of Giannis's mouth at some point this season, talking about how he wants to see. I think it was post Luka trade that he said that.
He was talking about he wants to see European players in big markets so that they can grow the game. He can do that from here. That's not an issue. I mean, it's not New York. We know that. It's not even Los Angeles. But I mean, Luka just went out there. When is LeBron fading out? I don't know if I see that. And you're right. They don't
honestly, like again, like thinking about the Bucks situation. If they can't get their picks back, like, and let's say Giannis is not down. There's a scenario where Giannis is not down to play for some of these teams we've been talking about who have the best packages and even the state tax teams. Let's say it's all about the big markets. It kind of fixed the Bucks' prerogative, because since they're not going to have their picks, they're not going to be able to tank, so they're going to want to be competitive. And what do some of these teams have in the big markets is players that they can theoretically get back for Giannis, a Bam or a Cat, and packages around them, of course. But Kawhi or Harden on the Clippers, I don't know. Like I'm spitballing, but like those are the types of players that the types of players that they're able to get back from some of these teams, as opposed to a haul of picks. So I'm just interested to see like what the direction is going to be and what Giannis kind of decides.
Well, we'll get more about his direction because more of that stuff's going to come out. I would not make a prediction of the Heat at higher than say 10% here. That's be as far as
10% might be generous.
That might be generous, but the no state tax, the glamour market, even if it's not a big market, an international market, and their track record, okay, I'll give them 8.5%, something along those lines. It's enough to sell new T-shirts. Giannis,
I mean, 1.8 is enough. 1.8% is enough to get you Cooper Flag.
Let's win the lottery. I mean, Giannis, do we put Bam on the T-shirts this time, or is it Bam for Giannis 2025? Have a good day, everybody.